Hey there, and welcome to another episode of your favorite libertarian. In today's episode, we're going to be continuing the series on the M&P9 M2.0 Optics Ready Full Size, and we are going to be installing this C&H Precision adapter plate for this bad mammoth jamma. If you remember my last video on this, you'll remember that the plastic plate did not work out so well. I used the right plate according to Smith & Wesson. I followed the instructions, installed it, but for whatever reason there was rubbing, it started coming loose, it started losing zero at the range as you saw. This metal plate is way better. I can already tell just from the installation process, which you will see shortly. I also wanted to note that I first used the longer screws to get more threads in. That didn't seem to work that great, as one of the commenters pointed out. So I then, during the course of waiting for the C&H plate, installed the short screws so I could continue to have the red dot on and practice with it, dry fire, etc. And as soon as I got that C&H plate and went to take off the plastic plate with the shorter screws provided by Howelson, I barely had to turn the screws at all and they came off and the optic came completely off. So there were barely any threads that were actually contacting the threads of this slide. And that's a bit concerning because the long screws were apparently too long, the short screws were too short. It just didn't inspire a lot of confidence. So one of the nice things about this, which I'll get into, is that this C&H Precision plate comes with its own specific screws for this optic setup and this slide setup. You have a lot more threads that are actually making contact and keeping this super secure. But we'll talk more about that when we get into the installation portion of the video, which is right now. Here's what comes with it. You have the plate itself, 2 screws, and it also comes with some Vibertite, but I'm going to be applying it with a different applicator because they just give you like a bag full of it. I need a little bit more precision than that. Quick tip on the Vibertite before we go. It congeals very quickly. When you apply it, it starts drying right away, and it dries a lot faster than like a blue Loctite does, and it's much chunkier or thicker, I guess you could say. You either have to put very, very, very little on it wet and screw it in, or you have to put it on and get any excess off the outside of the threads, let it dry for 15 to 20 minutes as they recommend, and then screw it on. And even then you might have so much excess because of how tight the fit is with those specific screws that it's kind of going to shave stuff off as you start screwing it. And by the stuff, I mean the Vibertite. So you got to make sure that you do a couple passes as you're screwing it in to remove the extra excess, and then get that out of the way so there's still a tight seal between the bottom of the plate and the top of the slide so that it's nice and flat. That has been your Vibertite tip of the day. Let me know how it works out for you. Then we have the bag. That's your instruction, QR code, and your VC3 instructions, QR code, and there's the back of the bag. So the plate and the optic are a pretty tight fit, so tight in fact that in order to get them to go together, I had to use a vise and a t-shirt and kind of crimp it together and squeeze it until it popped into place. And that's good. You don't want this thing sliding around. This feels more like it's one solid unit now, which should really help keep and hold zero as I'm shooting once I install this the rest of the way. Let's take this apart. Now we'll take our optic already wedged together with the plate. Take our 2 screws, and these ones I have let sit with the Vibertite on there so they're nice and cured. And we'll take our fat wrench, place our specific bit on here, and we're going to set it to 15 inch-pounds per the instructions. We are going to first line this up, put our screws in. Just want to get it hand tight and then try to center this red line on the tick mark that we want. So that should be what it looks like when you're doing 15 inch-pounds. That red line centered on the 15 inch-pound tick mark. And now we're going to go ahead and tighten these the rest of the way. Last thing to do is take our Sharpie paint pen and witness mark these screws to make sure as we're shooting and we're doing our inventory and inspection that these screws are not walking loose. Not my favorite witness mark job, but it will do. Now all we have to do is put it back together. There we go. Of course, we'll have to sight this in at the range, so stay tuned for that. Final thoughts. So for this optic, I want to just reiterate the fitment of this. It is super tight on this optic. The plate, I had to actually sandwich between the plate and the optic in a vise with a t-shirt around it and apply even pressure to both sides so that those little nubs would pop into the indentations or the holes of the optic itself. That's good and bad if you're worried about breaking your optic. It's not a good feeling to have it in a vise, and squeezing it is not super enjoyable as far as stress levels go if you're worried about that sort of thing. But it does give you a really tight fit. This feels like one solid piece of metal that you're just attaching to the actual slide cut. Another piece of the fitment equation is how the plate matches up front and back. And in the front, there is no light coming between the optic or the raised portion of the slide right here. In the back, there is a little bit of light. I'll put it in front of my pale face so you can see. There's a little bit of light in between the optic and the plate, and then in between the plate and the rear of the slide. I don't think the way that this installs that it's going to be an issue at the range, but we will see. Stay tuned for that. That will probably be the next video. Big shout out and thanks to everybody who helped with this video, two of which are my buddies. I don't know if they want me saying their first names on the channel. Let me know in the comment section below if you're cool with that, guys. But I just wanted to thank both of them for offering to lend me their Wheeler's fat wrench. I ended up going with the one that was closer to me and that could find theirs because one of my buddies they'd moved some stuff and they couldn't find it anywhere. But thank you both for offering. I love that little click at the end when you get to that specific torque spec. It feels really good. If I'm honest with myself, trying to hand tighten it, I probably wouldn't tighten it as much as I needed to for the torque spec because I'd be worried about stripping the threads. And it's really nice to have that confidence to just say, yep, this is exactly how tight it needs to be. Click, 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 and be done with it. So thanks again for that. Well, that's going to be it for my quick and dirty C&H Precision plate installation. If you have any questions, let me know what those are in the comment section below. If you like this video, leave a comment and a like. It really helps all the algorithm stuff. And if you want to see this plate, optic, and gun in action, check out my range video coming up real soon. And as always, thanks for watching. Stay free. God bless.